Imagine waking up one December morning in London, 1952. You pull back the curtains and see nothing. Not the street, not the neighbours' houses. Just a wall of yellow-brown fog. It isn't just outside either. It seeps under your door, fills your living room, and stings your throat with every breath. Within hours, buses grind to a halt, ambulances can't move, and people lose their way just walking down the street. London has been swallowed whole by a fog so thick and poisonous it would go down in history as one of the deadliest environmental disasters ever recorded. The city was no stranger to fog. In fact, London's infamous pea-soupers were part of its identity, born from centuries of coal smoke mixing with damp winter air. But this time, it wasn't just fog. This was a toxic cocktail. Post-war Britain was burning massive amounts of coal, and because high-quality fuel was exported abroad, Londoners were left with cheap, sulphur-heavy coal that belched out black smoke. Add exhaust from factories, power plants, and buses, then trap it all under a high-pressure weather system, and suddenly the entire city became a giant gas chamber. What followed was chaos. Visibility dropped to just a few feet. Drivers abandoned cars in the streets. Buses crawled forward with conductors walking ahead, holding lanterns to guide them. Trains stopped, airports closed. Even funerals were postponed because hearses couldn't navigate through the gloom. At night, the glow of street lamps could barely pierce the haze. Inside homes, curtains of soot settled on furniture, and people lit candles at noon just to see across the room. London had slowed to a crawl. But the real horror was what no one could see. At first, people brushed it off. Londoners joked about the biggest pea-souper yet, but by the second day, hospitals began overflowing. The smog was thick with sulfur dioxide, hydrochloric acid, and particles of soot, a deadly brew that attacked lungs and hearts alike. The young, the elderly, and anyone with asthma or bronchitis began collapsing in the streets. Doctors struggled to treat wave after wave of patients gasping for air. Morgues filled so quickly that undertakers ran out of coffins. In 1 week, thousands were dead. The official government count was 4,000, but later studies showed the real toll was far worse, closer to 12,000 deaths, with more than 100,000 people left with permanent damage to their lungs. It was a disaster that struck not with bombs or fire, but with silence, a creeping killer hidden in every breath of air. And yet, out of this tragedy came change. The outrage was so immense that Parliament passed the Clean Air Act of 1956, banning the burning of smoky coal in cities and creating smokeless zones. It marked the beginning of modern environmental laws and reshaped the way nations thought about air pollution. The Great Smog had brought London to its knees, but it also forced the world to confront the hidden cost of industrial progress. Looking back, the Great Smog of 1952 is more than just a tragic episode. It's a warning. It shows us that the greatest dangers aren't always sudden or obvious. Sometimes they creep in slowly, disguised as something familiar, until it's too late. For 5 days in December, London became a city that couldn't breathe. And while the fog lifted, the lesson it left behind still hangs in the air for every smog-choked city today.